Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at my very first Jurassic World Dominion figure, and we're kicking it off with the big girl herself, the Thrash and Devour Tyrannosaurus Rex. Dominion is scheduled to release on June 10th, which coincidentally is my wedding anniversary. Sorry wifey, that's what we're doing that day, non-negotiable. And with the new movie coming out, Mattel is gearing up for a major release. I ended up finding this figure at Walmart. It retails for $44.99. Yeah, some of the figures, we're in a time of inflation. Everything costs more. Prices are going up a little bit. Now, the thing with these figures, they're supposed to be street dated for April 17th, which is Easter, but apparently Walmart is not honoring the street date. Collectors all over the country are finding these figures on Walmart shelves. I think Kroger is another place that isn't locking these at the register. Target 100% is. If you find any Dominion figures on Target's shelf before April 17th, they will be locked at the register. And oddly enough, April 17th is Easter and Target is closed. So if you're trying to track down some Dominion figures early, I suggest hitting your local Walmart. Some people posted that they have an end cap display with almost all the figures already on the shelves. I've been hitting up the local Walmarts around me, and only one of them had Dominion figures out. It was this T-Rex and the new Extreme Damage T-Rex. Those are the only two Dominion figures I found so far. So I'm going to pop the camera off the tripod. I'm going to take a nice close look at this new Dominion packaging before we free this girl from her cardboard prison. Now first for the packaging, down here in the corner we have the Jurassic World Dominion logo front and center, and then behind Rexy's tail is a beautiful picture of her that takes up a good portion of the packaging. Back over here shows you where all the buttons and the electronic sounds are for the Rex. Over here is the new DNA code that pops out of the back. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then down here, the artwork in the back of the packaging. No more Isla Nublar. These animals are loose around the world right now. And you can see a police vehicle on this dirt road. Some power lines in the back. It is set in a mountain area. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, Thrash, and Devour logo on the front. On the side over here, we have a picture of Rexy eating a Moros. It's like, why do you have feathers in my franchise? You're ruining it. And then spinning it around to the other side as my studio starts to collapse on me because this box is so big. We have more pictures of the action feature. And then down here in the corner, we have a picture of the Tyrannosaurus, which is another figure I'm really looking forward to. So that will do it for the packaging. Let's free this beast and take a closer look. And here is Rexy in all her glory. As you can see, it's a very large figure. You can see the size of the studio. I had to zoom out pretty far to get her fully into frame. And it's another great Rex figure from Mattel. All of them have been good. Mattel has not released a bad Rex figure. Most of them have a unique gimmick attached to the figure, and this is another great one. You know, pretty much every Rex they've released has been marginally better than the previous one before it, which just keeps us coming back for more like the good drug dealers Mattel is. And I really like the dark brown on this figure. Yes, darker brown striping along the back, sides and the neck and the head. The only thing is the head is really, and head and neck are really wide on this figure. That is because of the new gimmick on this figure. It can swallow figures, and there's a cavity in the throat for the figures, to get swallowed into. But yeah, another awesome looking Rex figure, and I'm just adding it to the pile. I think I have maybe like 7-8 of these right now. Definitely have not bought all the Rexes, but I've come pretty close, and I was messing around with the action features on this thing, and it's another really fun figure. And now for a couple quick measurements. This figure is a whopping 22 inches long from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, and about 8.5 inches tall to the top of the head. So Rexy, around the time of Fallen Kingdom, is estimated around 44 feet long. She's almost 30 years old, so she's pretty much reached the maximum size of a T-Rex. So that put this figure in that 1/24 scale range. And now let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with the head. Mattel has always nailed the look of Rexy, and this figure is no different. The eye is painted a glossy yellow with a black pupil. Whole figure is cast in a light brown, highlighted by these black markings. The teeth are actually a separate insert. They're not painted like on some of the other Rex figures, so you don't have to worry about any like white sloppy paint around the lips of these figures. We know Mattel's been really up and down with quality control, but you can see they're made out of a soft rubber material for the upper and bottom jaw. And then inside the mouth, you can see the tongue is nicely sculpted. It has a nice glossy coat on it. And then you have this Man, this thing is super, super sensitive. I just bump it wrong and the electronics go off. You have a really, really deep throat that you can shove a few figures down in there. And then let's look at the figure from the front. That is a really, really wide head for a T-Rex. You know, it's got that really nice looking binocular vision. That is because of the gimmick of this figure. They had to widen the head and throat so it can swallow some figures. So not that big of a deal. You do have some scars along her neck and her jaw from her battle with the raptors and Indominus Rex. And then the lower jaw is cast in a lighter brown plastic. And then going down to the throat, we do have this, oh my God, seriously, this thing is super, super sensitive. You do have this nice cream coat for the underside, going all the way to about the hind legs. The front arms, the hand claws are not painted. They did it on a, did they do it on any of the Rex figures? I have them all to the side over here. I think only like 1 or 2 Rex figures actually had the hand claws painted on it, but really not a big deal. And then going down to the main body, you can see all that dark black striping along the back and sides. You have some more scars along the side over here. And then going down to the feet are really, really nicely sculpted. You have some nice texturing on the toe claws, which are painted in. And then going down to the base of the tail, that black paint stops right at the base, which continues the trend of Mattel not painting the tails on like 95% of their figures. And then going all the way down, you know, you do have a short tail. You know, it's been one of the biggest complaints from collectors about this line. The tails are always way, way too short. And then right here on the back, you have this little slot. You stick your finger in here and you can pull out the DNA code. It used to be on the foot. It's been on the foot for years now. This is the new way they are doing it. So if you want to scan it into the fax app, here is the code right here. And let's push that back in. And then let's take a look at the head and neck from the top. You can see it's very, very wide compared to the rest of the body. But no, not a big deal. This figure has a gimmick, and you know, sometimes sacrifices need to be made. Now for articulation, this figure doesn't have a lot of it because most of it is tied to the action feature, but the front arms can move forwards and backwards. They are not on a hinge joint like some of the other Rex figures. And then going down to the hind legs, they move in unison. You cannot move them separately because, again, it's tied to the action feature. But all you need to do is push down and you can get a couple clicks of motion with those hind legs. And like I said, this thing is super duper sensitive. And then going down to the feet, the ankle joints on these feet are really, really tight on mine, but you can turn the feet to point in different directions if you so choose to. And that's it for the articulation. So let's move on to its action feature. Now for the action feature, you have a button on the tail right here, which controls the mouth, and you can also swing the tail from side to side. So the front part of the body can thrash around its victim. So pressing the tail opens the mouth. And you get a couple roars by doing that. And there's the nice classic Rexy roar we all know and love. And then swing the tail from side to side. You get that thrash in action. And now let's get a victim out here for Rexy to devour. And then here we go. And the figure is safe all the way in the back of the throat. And you know what? I wonder how many figures we can fit down here. Let's see how many Owens we can fit in here. 1, 2, and 3. Surprisingly, I only have 3 Owen figures. I've been really, really good trying to avoid them, but it looks like that's going to change when I start picking up more Dominion figures. Looks like I've got a little bit more room. Let's shove Maisie in there because they're alive like me. So yeah, you can fit like 4 figures in the mouth. Well, if you really want to like jam some figures in there, you can fit all 6 campers. So this thing has a maximum capacity of 6 campers. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, it has a big old throat on this thing. And now let's move on to comparisons. And strap in, we got a bunch of Rex figures to compare this thing to. And moving on to comparisons before we jump into all those Rex figures I have lined up. Let's start off with a human figure. Here it is with Alan Grant. And now for Rexapalooza, here it is with the first Rex from Mattel, the Thrash and Throw. Both figures are roughly about the same size, but unlike the Thrash and Throw, most of the other Rexes can stand fine on their own. This one's just leaning into it so it doesn't fall over. Next is the Extreme Damage T-Rex, which is basically the same mold as the Legacy Collection Rex that we've seen quite a few times already. This is all around my favorite Rex mold. I just wish it was bigger because I like the extra articulation on this one with that side-to-side movement. You know, this Extreme Damage doesn't have chomping gimmicks. You can open the mouth up and keep it open. So yeah, we'll see what the Hammond Collection Rex looks like. Hopefully, you know, with all these Rexes Mattel has done, none of them have gotten Rexy's color scheme down perfectly. You know, they've gotten close, but you know, if they nail it, we're not going to buy any more Rexes. So I know what they're doing. I know what they're doing. But hopefully that Hammond Collection Rex becomes our definitive Rex in our Jurassic World collection. Next is the Dino Rivals Bite and Fight. This new Rex is just a little bit bigger than that one, especially in the head area. The head's a little bit bigger and obviously much wider. And next is the Primal Attack Ultimate T-Rex. This one's definitely up there as one of my favorite T-Rex figures from Mattel. I just like the general sculpt of it. You know, it has a lot of nice details on it, and the action feature is really, really fun. And lastly, for T-Rex figure, it's the most recent Rex, the Dino Escape Stomp and Destroy T-Rex, which is another fun Rex figure. And for those of you wondering, the capture gear that comes with this figure does not fit on the head of this new Rex because the head is just way, way too wide. And next up, here it is with a Velociraptor. And let's do a few of the villain dinosaurs throughout the franchise. Here it is with the Scorpius Rex. And here it is with the Spinosaurus. This Rex is just a little bit bigger than the Spino. Maybe one day Mattel will upscale this just a little bit more so the Spinosaurus looks a little bit more intimidating next to our Rex figures. And here it is against the Indominus Rex. The Indominus figure is bigger than the Rex, as it should be. And even though I'm not a big fan of the hybrids, this is still one of the best toys Mattel has ever put out in the main line. And here it is with the Carnotaurus. And here it is with the Dino Escape Carcharodontosaurus, a species that got roughly about the same size as T-Rex. But, you know, Mattel's not going to give us one that size because we can't have too many dinosaurs as big as Rex in the line for whatever reason. And here it is with Mattel's always way too small Triceratops. It's been one of the biggest complaints from collectors. The Triceratops figure is just too small. I mean, seriously, look at this thing next to a Rex. And it looks like Mattel's getting more mileage out of this mold because, you know, we've all seen, you know, the leaks of pretty much most of the figures coming out in the first wave or two. We've seen this trike again. But there's apparently one scheduled for the Hammond Collection line. Hopefully that one is a little bit bigger, but, you know, I have my doubts. But if you want a Triceratops that is kind of in scale with this Rex, here is the monster beast of the Mesozoic Triceratops. So this gives you a good idea of just how big Triceratops is next to a T-Rex. These things were not meant to be messed with. They're just a huge, huge animal. So final thoughts on this new Mattel Rex. Another fun figure from them. Like I said, they've never made a bad T-Rex figure. This is another fun addition to your collection. The action feature is really fun to mess around with. I love how you can stuff a few figures in the throat. You know, the paint scheme is, you know, slightly better than the last Rex, and I just see that trend continuing for a very long time with them. They're always going to give us a slightly better looking Rex, but I have my doubts that they're ever going to give us one that is, like, you know, accurate to what Rexy looks like in the movies, just to keep us buying these figures. Like I said at the beginning of the review, these figures are showing up at Walmart. They're not honoring the street date, so you can go right through the register if you find any of the figures. You know, April 17th is the official release date for all the new Dominion figures, and it's going to be a hell of a time on our wallets for us collectors once all those toys start hitting shelves. So that will do it for this review. I'm going to keep hunting around and see if I can find any more Dominion figures early. I have the Extreme Damage blue set with Owen and Ring Delacourt. That should be in the next day or two, and if I find any more figures, I'll be reviewing them early, so be on the lookout for those reviews. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys for the next one.